TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the Zoso show, folks. Welcome to a special celebration on the channel. Brad,
Yay.
you mentioned that it's our first Zoso show for the year.
It is. And yeah, I have to back up what you said just before, Andrew. TikTok, it's time to rock some Zeppelin.
Yeah, and we have our local celebrity on the show with us, the Rock
Yes.
Professor, who, if you are unaware, folks, if you're new to the channel, the Rock Professor had the privilege in 1975 to see the band that we're going to spend a bit of time talking about in live in the flesh, Brad and Simon. Wow, Rock Professor.
Live at Earl's Court, indeed. Yes. Did I mention it? Yes.
I think you've mentioned it once or twice, maybe, Simon. I think.
Yeah, I'm quite rested about it.
Good to see you guys here on the channel. We've got a special show planned for everybody today. Just a bit of a rundown, bit of a chin wag, bit of a review show, guys, on a subject that's very dear to our hearts. Hence, we're wearing Led Zeppelin t-shirts. I'll tell you what. Before we talk about it, how about we talk about the person that we're sharing the screen with, and then we can get rid of that thing.
Yes.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon,
Yes.
Brad?
I think so. Shouts out to our good friend Caleb from Nerd Halen. Looks like his GoFundMe is doing pretty well. It's up there, $65,774 which is fantastic. But really, as we've discussed, it's not nearly enough to probably help him and his family, get back on their feet. So it would be lovely to see that try and get to at least 100,000. So, guys, if you haven't done so already, please, if you're able to share a little bit, every little bit helps to get to that $100,000 goal that we've personally set here on the 5150 show for him. So, and Caleb, if you're watching or if you watch this later on, we're really hoping and praying things are improving for you, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. So, boys, Led Zeppelin, huh? We're all Zosso showed today. We're all got the little. I love this. What is it? This way.
What, the flashing logo in the corner?
Logo right here. It's like I'm touching magic. Look.
Look at it. Production. Now we're into production.
That's not AI, folks. That's not AI.
No,
that's not AI.
That's not AI.
Yeah.
No, we're going to get together and obviously talk about an event that we went and saw. Brad and I caught up with some family and friends yesterday and saw it. Not together.
No,
The Rock Professor shot off and saw it on Wednesday. But
opening
before
night.
we do that, opening night. Wow.
Becoming Led Zeppelin.
Some say premiere.
Before we do that, though, there's a couple of shout outs, obviously, that we like to get out on the channel. The first thing, obviously, folks, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do, and our friends, especially some Instagram accounts there, and you can find more friends over there on Instagram. Brad Cook Music. At Brad Cook Music, you'll find the Backdoor Man, Simon Williams 33. You can find the Rock Professor over there. Our good friend John ZD351 Music is there as well. And another dear friend of ours, Zach Zedris, Brad, is over there. So please go and check those guys out and subscribe to their accounts, and you can find out what we're doing. I'm going to talk about the first thing before we get on to the show. Goodbye Cream celebrated an anniversary last week, guys. Released in February 1968. So keep that one up your sleeves, boys, because we haven't ranked that track, any of those albums, any of those tracks on that album. So that could be an album coming up.
Oh, look, let's just stop mucking around, putting our heads in the sand, Andrew. It's going to happen. That's your next pick, isn't it?
But you've got the next one, so hopefully, if you've got that sorted, you might tell us at the end of the show.
I haven't run it by you, gentlemen, but I thought I'd take it upon myself to go stuff you if we're going to do this album anyway. So, I'll leave it maybe to the end of the show, Andrew, and announce it then. But it won't be next week. It'll be maybe the following week. Sorry, guys. That's my pick.
Yeah, and that's a segue into the reason why we're not doing it next week, because the Backdoor Man is going to be performing with his band. So the Rock Professor and I will be here. And we'll get somebody to give us a hand.
Holding the fort down.
Probably the number one ringing guy that we've got on the channel, the number one ringerer, John ZD351, the ringing man. Might give him a yell.
If he's free, that'd be great. And I'd really appreciate it, John. I know you're a busy man, but it's always good to have you on the show, and I think a lot of our subscribers love having you on. So it's great for us.
Awesome.
Always.
So, Brad, you've got a couple of things you want to shout out. The Rock Professor's got a couple of things, and then he can do a hi to the folks, and we can talk about the film. What do you reckon?
Sounds great. Look, the first shout out is happy birthday to Guns N' Roses fellow members Duff McKagan and Axl Rose. Near and dear to my heart and the channel's heart. And, I can't wish them more happier and more joyous birthday this week. That was fantastic.
Well done.
I had a day where for 48 hours, I just listened to all Guns N' Roses. I just thought, in honor of them, I would listen to Appetite for Destruction, Lies, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. And, just on that note, stay tuned. I'm going to start posting a little bit more Guns N' Roses stuff on my Instagram of me playing some stuff for fun, just because I can and I love it. So, but yeah, in honor of those guys, happy birthday, Simon. You've got a shout out.
I have, shout out to this week saw the anniversary of the death of Gary Moore on 6th of February 2011. Died 14 years ago already. 14 years ago. So one of the pillars of our channel. We've done some of his albums and probably do a few more in the future. Fantastic Irish blues player.
It's almost it almost feels like yesterday or the day before. I heard the news that Gary Moore had passed, and I must admit I shed a tear. Probably one of my biggest influences on guitar and vocals, blues artists. But obviously a rock player as well. And what can I say about Gary Moore that I haven't said before, guys? He's phenomenal, and his playing was next level. I mean, it inspired generations of guitar players, including myself. So, and us guys, you, Simon, you, Andrew, we're all Gary Moore nuts. So, yeah, very sad day. I remember it very vividly when I heard it. I was, woke up to it and saw it on social media, and I could not believe it. Just thought he's far too young to pass on. So,
58.
Yeah, far too young, mate. Another legend gone, unfortunately. Yeah,
what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least he left behind a a discography of music that's phenomenal, and there's a lot of great footage out there. Live Blues, I encourage everyone to go check that one out. He's playing in a little club, and it's got probably the absolute most epic version of Still Got the Blues on that. So check it out, guys. Live Blues.
Live Blues. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so here we are, guys, becoming Led Zeppelin. I wish we were becoming Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the guitar for it. Let's go.
I think we've all got the guitar for it now. So
yeah, I know. Yeah. Led Zeppelin, renowned for not having 3 guitarists.
No.
Yeah, beautiful.
No. One of the original trios. Look, I suppose we better kick off the show, guys. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about by way of an intro, if that's okay. One thing that struck me about these guys talking about their time with Led Zeppelin, Brad and Simon, was the fondness that they had, you know, not only with each other, but also just telling the story. You know, clearly it was something that they were enjoying, and the love that they had. I don't know about you guys, but it certainly came across to me, but also with a couple of other people because there was a group of us that went to see it, and there were some people there that weren't to the degree of Led Zeppelin nuts like we were, and made that comment as well, you know, that especially with Robert Plant. You know, Robert Plant was engaging and charming, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think he felt maybe because of the nature of the way the documentary was done and whatnot, maybe it was time for him to engage the way he does, because we know in past interviews and past everything, he's always been what's the word I'm trying to think of? Not cagey, a little bit sheepish and
aloof.
That's the word. Aloof.
Enigmatic.
Exactly. That's another one. Great descriptions, gentlemen. Certainly better than mine. But yeah, I found Robert Plant to be very engaging and a little bit humorous, actually. Like, he's always a bit funny. He's got a bit of humor about him, but yeah, it was outstanding in talking about that. And I think they all were, the 3 of the remaining members. But it was for me, what was delightful to hear was the audio interview with John Bonham, the audio stuff that had never been heard before, which that to me was a delight, because it was just great to hear John Bonham talking about Led Zeppelin becoming, you know, how they sort of got together and his point of view on it, because I've always heard the flag bearer obviously is Jimmy Page and always has been, you know, to this day. But it was great. I found that really intriguing. How'd you guys find the John Bonham stuff, the talk, his interview stuff that came in? I thought to myself it was joyous. He felt like, you know, when he was being interviewed, it felt like he was, to me, like he was full of joy about it all.
For sure. Yeah. I do think it was interesting, isn't it? You know, it's I thought that the first thing I'd say is that I'm picking up on your point that you've got the 4 personalities, didn't you? You've got, you know, Jimmy Page is clearly, you know, he's like the driven one, the visionary, but quite nerdish. You know, he's quite nerdy in a way. Interestingly, whereas Plant, I would say, is kind of impish and kind of, you know, it's kind of cheeky and sort of. John Paul Jones kind of wry, isn't he? A little bit detached from a sort of wry sense of humour, and you know, and the interest in the ordinariness of John Bonham, you know, who worked for his dad as a builder and stuff. You know, you could see him as a Brummie builder, couldn't you? You know, black country builder, you know, kind of thing, and that. So he came across a kind of not really And I know that in the, in there, Robert Plant talks about going to America, and and kind of just that dream of going to America, sort of going from black and white to color kind of thing, and and that came across in Bonham's thing as well. That kind of wide-eyed sort of wow about it. It was great. So yeah, Andrew.
Oh, look, I was clearly, like you guys, surprised. We knew that there was going to be a little bit of that interview coming through, but to hear John Bonham talk about his band members, but also watch the affection that his remaining band members had when they were the camera was on them when John Bonham was talking, Brad and Simon especially, was just fantastic. Clearly some love and some warmth there, and that's the big thing that I got from the film. There was a genuine desire for these guys to express, some love about what they've done together as a band. And there were some honest comments there about how they got together, and they weren't that tight, Brad, at the start, and but there was enough there to keep going, that blew them away. Hearing John Paul Jonesy talk about Plant's vocals being up here, holy, come down here. But also to talk about his dad. Clearly his dad was a big influence in his life, and the fact that his dad was proud of him, proud that he was in a successful band, Brad. And Simon, to go and watch them at Albert Hall was just, remarkable, because at the end of the day, there were everybody that was in London was at that gig. Went Clapton, everybody was at that gig. But all he cared about was his old man.
That was pretty cool.
I agree, Andrew, but the one thing that I really enjoyed about it, and I know we've all probably read that many books and really dived into Led Zeppelin's history, but there's nothing better than hearing it from the artist himself. And I must say, it's been long overdue, and I really enjoyed the way they laid out the documentary. How it, obviously, the in-depth interviews with Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham, but I loved how it was such like that in-depth look at the band's rapid race to fame. You know what I mean? And it highlights sort of each member's childhood, into their musical journey and the path that they took, obviously, which led them to success. I loved that, and I mean, we've all read a lot of stuff that's documented some of this anyway, but to hear it from them and from their point of view, like to hear John Paul Jones, like you said, Andrew, talking about his dad and things like that, and to hear Robert Plant talking about his family life and how tough it was for him as a, he was pretty much homeless because his choice to follow music, and it was just amazing to hear it from their mouths, you know what I mean, rather than reading it as second person sort of giving that information or whatever is incredible. I really enjoyed the interviews, the whole childhood thing. I was like, I wasn't expecting it to be so in depth. I thought it was going to be just like a touch on it and then straight into the Zeppelin, the Yardbirds and their journey to the Yardbirds and then into Zeppelin. But I was really, really grateful that they did that, guys.
What did you think? What did you think, guys, when Robert Plant was talking about, how he was this student protest leader and free pot?
No, that was funny, wasn't it? Yeah.
On free the pot marches, and then it was John Bonham who pulled his head in and said, "Hey, come on, pull your head in now.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Go make some music now."
What do you actually think you're doing?
That was funny, was it? Trying to make a scene, just trying to make a scene of some description or other was funny, wasn't it? It's yeah. Well, that kind of that shows kind of his his personality in a way. Robert Plant is, why he's a great frontman. Kind of making the scene.
Yeah. And I really loved that part. I thought that was hysterical, Andrew, and I loved the way that you could honestly see Robert Plant sort of welling up a little bit every time John Bonham's voice was, being presented to him, and he'd talk about John Bonham with such love and admiration. They all did, John Paul Jones did. How he spoke about how he used to leave space to highlight his kick drum and, things like that in the songs. And Jimmy Page would talk about his power, John Bonham's power. And, obviously that it's great to hear that. To this day, they still, there's no one in their eyes that's, better than John Bonham. He was the most unique drummer. And really, at the end of the day, it was an alchemy of four brilliant musicians, and they documented that so well. You know what I mean? The chemistry that was between the four of them was something like we've never, been great, experienced since that. I don't think.
No, but Totti Geras. How do you pronounce that? Totti Geras. Makes a very, very good point about Jonesy being the church musical director at 14. That was amazing. I don't think I knew that. If I did, I can't remember in the back of my mind, Simon, knowing that he was the music director.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that was quite funny. It was £8 a year, and we got. But I didn't know he was a choir master when he was young and things, and interesting stuff about it. I did, yeah. Well,
okay.
I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I have met him a couple of times.
There you go.
All right, stop that now. Stop that now. Clang.
Name dropping again.
Yeah. Sorry. Stopping that now.
No,
I did think that was really interesting. That and also the background of his. I don't really know the background to his parents. That they were they were a musical duo and stuff. And things that was that. And and his dad saying, "Which one? You want to take up the saxophone? You'll never be out of work." I don't want to do that. I want to play the bass.
They're out of fashion in 2 years.
Yeah. Don't know what you're doing. Oh, great. That was lovely. Yeah. Alongside. And then that thing where he's talking about when they first got together and Paige says to him, right, we're gonna play Train Kept a Rolling. Do you know it? No.
Yeah,
that's really funny. You kind of assumed that it was a classic and everybody knew it. And Joe's like, no, never heard of it. Never heard it.
I loved that. I thought that was incredible.
That was good, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was incredible.
Carmichael's in the chat as well, joining us along with Cosmic Vagabond Pixie. So we've got some new names. Thank you guys for stopping by and hanging out with us. Clearly, you're Led Zeppelin fans, and we invite you, please, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to our channel. If you do that, we'll make sure that we subscribe back to your channel. But enjoying your comments about the film, so please share them with us, and we'll try and talk about your comments while we chinwag amongst our own thoughts. But Cosmic Vagabond Pixie wants the quick version, Simon, about how you met Jonesy.
Oh, the quick. Okay, so the quick. Well, my dad was a composer. He was called Edward Williams, and he did some music most famously for the first big David Attenborough series, Life on Earth. That's all my dad's music. But my dad was very interested in electronic music. He used a lot of synthesizers, but manipulating real instruments using synthesizers and other things. This was his big thing, and he had a sort of a performing group called, with a sort of a revolving door of members, called Uncle Jambo's Pendular Vibration. It was typical of my dad to go on something. But one of the things he used to do was to do kind of electronic music courses and stuff at colleges and all sorts of things. And he got invited to go to the Huddersfield Music Festival. And so he went with, and John Paul Jones came with us because John Paul Jones was very interested in electronic music, and that sort of my dad had met him. So he, I remember turning up at my house one day, and he'd come for lunch, you know, kind of thing. You know, I was quite staggered by this. It's like, one of those moments, you know. So we spent a very enjoyable and jolly week in Huddersfield. We all stayed up there, kind of doing workshops and some concerts and things. And yeah, with John. So that was fantastic, and he's a lovely man. So fantastic.
We're all a little bit envious, Simon. We're all a little bit envious.
It's just because I'm old, you know. He's as old as me, and I do live in the UK, so there's some chance that I might meet him. Some people round about.
That is true, but yeah, I thought John Paul Jones was very engaging and humorous as well. I thought he was fantastic in the documentary, and yeah. But isn't it wonderful to watch them reflecting on it in such a passionate way? I thought that was really beautiful to watch, and I really loved listening to Jimmy Page talk. And then when you're watching him, watching footage or listening to the interviews of John Bonham, and he's reliving it all in his head with a smile on his face, and proud. He's just a proud man of his, what he's achieved. And, I mean, it was an alchemy of just brilliance, them coming together. It was meant to happen, Simon. And, listening to them talk about it, it comes across like they believe that as well, I think. You know what I mean? They were meant to cross paths. They were meant to.
Yeah.
And to hear, how the band, I love the journey in that first 12 months, 1969, what they achieved, Simon and Andrew, was phenomenal.
How hard they worked.
You talk about success. It wasn't overnight. It was a lot of hard work. They toured relentlessly. They did a lot of work, but they recorded. There was 2 albums released in '69. That's incredible. You know what I mean? No bands do that anymore.
Used to then, though.
Can I share with you guys, the thing that Jimmy Page clearly was proud of, and you mentioned it before, Brad. A lot of us are going to be talking about information that we've known over the years, but we're just, we're gushing and we're sharing it because it was spoken about in the film. But there was one point in particular that I was really, really proud of Jimmy Page. He learnt the lessons, didn't he, from these previous bands and from being a session musician and knowing the music business. He knew that when he was going to record this album here, that he was going to pay for it. And he knew that he wasn't going to be owing a cent to a record company. And he went and sold that. And he was so proud of that, wasn't he? That we were going to do that. And that deal, Brad and Simon, that they got, no one got that deal.
No. And what was remarkable about it is he almost dictated, and Peter Grant and him dictated what the terms were going to be. Yeah. And I think a lot of that may have come from Peter Grant's, intimidating look, I guess, and the way he approached the business side for Led Zeppelin. But yeah, it was definitely amazing to hear. You wouldn't hear that in this day and age, that an artist has recorded something and gone into a record company and gone, this is what we're doing. Yep. This is our terms. This is our conditions.
It wasn't a demo. It was a fully finished album.
Yep. And they were happy to leave it. They were happy to leave it mixed the way Page had done it. And,
do you know anybody, Simon, that's done that? That has gone, it's pretty hard to remember on the top of my mind, someone that's just gone in there and given someone a fully produced album, guys, and said, here, do you want to buy it?
No, I don't think not. I mean, not then, I don't think people did that then very much. They all signed to record companies, and that, the dream was to get a record company deal and all of those things, and not do it yourself. I mean, you have to say it was a brilliant move, and I think that background Page had of playing sessions and doing all, being around Mickey Most, and that was really clearly, because didn't he say Mickey Most and Peter Grant had desks opposite each other, and if you watched a bit of that, you get to understand the business, don't you, because you're playing it and stuff, and you get to understand, how you can, you need to do it for yourself, and saved up enough money to do it, and I think the other thing we'd say is that, the Beatles made an album in 2 sessions. Their first album was made into 3 sessions, 3 2-hour sessions, kind of whatever it is. So, not unprecedented. And we talked a lot on here about bands playing together live in the studio, which is clearly how they did it. And you save time and money by, and they didn't really have the technology then to have massive overdubs and things, but which I think is another interesting thing. But that they had to, that your constraints make you creative and things. But that play all together in the studio, and then overdub the guitar solos and the lead vocals, and any effects you might want to do, means you can get on. And Page clearly was able to work quickly because he, steeped in session musicians, him and John Paul Jones, probably loads of one-take wonders in all of that. All the things that they did, and that was one of the interesting things, was what they played on. And I love John Paul Jones going, "Yeah, I played on everybody except the Beatles." So a little gap that he leaves just when he said it made me laugh. The other thing I'd just say about the early things, and I think that the background stuff they did was really good, and was and clearly we've all seen it, but the film of Jimmy Page appearing on that TV show, age whatever he is, 12 or 13, or playing skiffle, the importance that Lonnie Donegan and Page mentioned him, and that skiffle boom, the importance that played in the development of British R&B music, people playing blues, rhythm and blues, the Stones, everybody went through a phase of playing skiffle. And they went through a phase of playing skiffle because of Lonnie Donegan. And that introduction to skiffle is an introduction to American folk blues, which comes up in all those bands in the 60s. Then took that to various places, but that's where they got it from. And I think that it's really important. And that was brought up, and I'm pleased that was brought up. And they actually had a bit of film of Lonnie Donegan. And I think it's that it's kind of underestimated the power that skiffle movement had in galvanizing British post-war kids into making bands, creating bands. It was cheap, it was cheerful, but that gateway thing into, as I say, American folk blues is just cannot be underestimated. I don't think as an influence thing. So that was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
Really good. I was really, happy that was in. And as I say, and I like the kind of, there was that film, wasn't it? Some film of Jimmy Page doing sessions and things. They talked about the sessions and things. And I think, that you build on all of that, and then you arrive at 1969, and you've got, you've got Page clearly, with that vision, that real dream. He knows what he wants to achieve. He knows, he has an idea about how to achieve it. Him and Grant, and it definitely is him and Peter Grant, coming up, scheming it up. We're going to go to America and we're going to tour with America, and they talked fondly about Vanilla Fudge taking, being nice to them and things, and all of that. So I think it's, that it does a fantastic job of knitting all that together, with their early life. Yeah.
100%, Simon. And, before I pass it over to Brad, I just want to back you up on a couple of points there too, about Jimmy Page, being a genius. Jimmy Page too also understood what was happening with the music scene when he was with the Yardbirds. Clearly understood that music was moving away from singles, from 3-minute singles. Brad, he could understand. He was listening to FM stations playing whole sides of albums.
Yeah.
He knew that this is where the scene was going to go, and went back to the UK with that idea of mine when he formed the band. Just besides being a genius musically, the guy is a genius with the music, Brad, understanding the industry.
100%. He had a vision. He knew exactly what he wanted to achieve, and he even talks about it close to the start of the documentary. You know, he's talking about the vision he had when he was in the Yardbirds for what he wanted to achieve. He knew what he wanted to achieve. He needed a singer with a powerful, big voice, and the rest of the band sort of fell around him because he had that vision. And backing up what you guys are saying, he was a genius in not just in the musical sense, but the business sense. He knew exactly which way to go, avoiding the singles. Like, you know, a few people in the chat have mentioned, you know, he deliberately put the freak out section in Whole Lot of Love to avoid it being a single. I think that's brilliant. He just wanted the band to be an album band and people to appreciate it. He knew FM stations, like you said, Andrew, were playing full sides of a record. You know, they'd play one side, they'd come on and say that where they are, you know, what radio station, what they're listening to, turn the side on and just let it play. And I mean, imagine radio stations like that today. I'd be in awe. I'd be rapt. But music obviously, you know, has changed a lot. Something I said to my partner after watching it, I said, geez, I think, you know, I would love to have been around as a musician in those days to experience that, the time, you know, coming up in that sort of that time frame when music was all about records and artists being artists and, you know, presenting themselves in their true self, like exactly what they wanted to do, not in a marketable sense, which is unfortunate. But music has become over the decades about marketability, where it wasn't like that back in these days, guys. It was just about the music. And I have to say, the music is what makes the hair stand up, you know, on your arms. And I was watching that, and there was a few times, and I've seen a lot of that footage that was played. I've seen a lot of it. We've all got it, the all footage, all the stuff where Jimmy's playing the Telecaster. We've all seen it, you know. But watching it again on the bigger screen with a great system, I was getting goosebumps. Every time Robert Plant would go, and doing all that stuff, I was just going, wow, like these guys were young. I mean, Robert Plant was 19. You know what I mean? They were young guys. They were very talented. But the thing that was very evident is they all acknowledged the fact that as soon as they got together and amalgamated and became Led Zeppelin, that they knew they were on a journey. They knew they were going to be successful. They knew there was something magic about what was happening in that first
Jonesy, getting back to Jonesy, you know, so that's a good point that Jonesy did too, because he was a successful session man. And his wife said, why don't you ring up Jimmy Page? We know the story, and because he's getting a band together. Ring him up. She didn't tell him once. I think she told him 3 or 4 times, you know, to get out there and do it. And then he went and told people, and they said he was mad, you know, because Brad, because he was going to. What do you want to do that for? And he's, you know, clearly in his heart, he knew where he was going to go. But I'm sorry for jumping in, but I just want to go back to what you were just saying before about Robert Plant. I was with some people yesterday, and the comment was made by people who weren't nuts like us about Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and they said, I didn't realize Robert Plant sings so well.
Yeah, that's a common thing. Like my partner was blown. Like she listens.
Was she blown away too?
She listens to Zeppelin with me. You know what I mean? She listens to it with me. But seeing and hearing it in that cinema, it gave us both goosebumps listening to old man. But listening to Robert Plant sing, it was very evident that he was obviously, for a young guy, wow, just an amazing voice. But I love how they touched on the songwriting for Zeppelin 2. And I was kind of glad because I thought they were maybe going to stop after the first record. I was like, please don't stop after the first record because you still got
keep going. Keep
Led
going.
Zeppelin 2 to talk about. Yeah.
Did you?
Sorry, Simon.
I was going to say, did you notice that it stops where DVD starts? That's actually it ends at the Albert Hall, and DVD starts with the Albert Hall gig. So you could see it perfectly aligns with that and DVD. I think that there could be a good morning, Ellen. How are you? I hope you're all right. We're sending our love and our thoughts to you.
Much love and prayers to family members that are dealing with things, and much strength to my mother and family and everything that are going through stuff. So much love and prayers.
Hey, Alan. God bless.
Yes, God bless. But yeah.
So I think that's important to say. I think that also that I think about that magic and stuff. Something in the air around that time. You could say Cream had the same magic. You could say the Beatles had the same magic. The Stones, all those people, they got together, and and special things happened, and it all happened around that time.
Simon, I'm going to interrupt. They had a graphic of the albums that were in the top 5. And it was Led Zeppelin 2, the Beatles, Abbey Road, and Let It Bleed, the Rolling Stones, all in the top 5, Simon.
All in the top 5, all at the same time. Yeah, you can't say better magic than that, can you? But and the three, and the great, Beck, Page, and Clapton coming out of a area, 3.5 miles square kind of thing, whatever it is. Again, all these kind of extraordinary kind of joining of the fates to to produce this stuff, and I think it's that's the trouble, is it'll never happen again because the stars will never align quite like that again, and together with with that the words of the great Tom Petty, the future is wide open, and they could take anything they wanted, they could do anything they wanted. There were no constraints, no rules about what music they produced. You weren't in a genre, you weren't in anything, you were just producing music, and I think that sadly that time will never come, but at least it came once in our lifetime. We're able to enjoy the fruits of it as a thing.
And our channel celebrates it.
Yeah. I did love listening to them talking about the first record, and then obviously progression into the second LP, Led Zeppelin 2, and listening to Jimmy Page so passionately talking about the sonic of it, how he wanted it to sound almost three-dimensional, and have everything had its place, and wanted to make sure that every instrument could be heard clearly. And like, he had such a vision sound-wise and sonically that were, a lot of people overlook when they talk about Led Zeppelin guys. It's sonically, Page had a vision as just as much as he did for the band, the direction of the band, but he had such a good ear. You listen to the recordings based around 69 and 70, and nothing sounded as incredible to me as Led Zeppelin 2 in that era, that 69-70 period. Nothing. When we talk about the Beatles, we're talking about Cream, we're talking about other bands around that era, and they're all sensational, and there was magic. Like Abbey Road's one of my all-time favorite records, guys. Probably my favorite Beatles record, if that, and the Beatles are right up there as my favorite band with Zeppelin. But to hear that, you put Abbey Road on, then you put like Led Zeppelin 1 or 2 on, which came out around the same time. You know what I mean? It's such a sonic difference. Page had a vision. He knew exactly how to get John Bonham's power across. He wanted the drums to breathe, and he spoke about how John Bonham knew how to tune his kit, which is something that I've always
thought. That was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was, how good would it be to hear, like they did a Led Zeppelin Becoming thing for musicians to listen to about the technical aspects and everything that but the normal punters don't want to hear, but the geeks like us do. Imagine that, how good that would be, even if it was a half-hour episode of Page just talking about, you know, how he got that guitar tone and how he got, you know, that bass drum sounding the way it did, and the snare, and how he got John Paul Jones's, you know, bass out there and Robert Plant's vocal. One thing he did talk about was reversing tapes and echoes and reverbs and stuff like that, which I found that was remarkable. I was hoping to hear more of that thing in the documentary. I was hoping to hear more of that because I love that stuff. I love that stuff, guys. I think that's, you know, it's epic, you know.
Yeah.
And the first record, I listened to that today. I listened to Led Zeppelin 1 today and this afternoon. And let's be honest, you can tell it's a new band, but my goodness, there's so much chemistry and magic going on there. But by the time they got to Led Zeppelin 2, you could tell they were really ready. You know, as a band, they were really ready to record while they were recording that. You know, layering the textures and everything that they put on Led Zeppelin 2. Sonically, they're very different sounding records, and it happened in the same year.
Weird that we could say good morning to Michael Smith, the captain. Good morning, Michael. I hope you're good. It's lovely to see you. I know you set your alarm, so it's probably the middle of the night where you are. But it's great to see you, and we hope you're well.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah,
I agree, Brad. You know that they moved on quickly, and that thing about recording in different cities and stuff, and making it almost a virtue, not a, you know, well, we'll just go and record the second album while we're on the road. We can make a virtue out of that. You know, but all those things, as you say, on the first album in place, that kind of mixture of folk and rock and the loud and the quiet, you know, the acoustic instruments and you know, and the electric stuff and things, just, you know, and all the other stuff like the bow, and you know, it's all in place, you know, doing that. And I'll say one thing, that listening to it over a, you know, in an IMAX cinema over those, you know, it was loud when we saw it. It was, you know, it was absolutely humming. You know, you could feel it in your chest, and that's how to listen to. That's how you listen to Led Zeppelin. Any bands, but you know, Led Zeppelin in this case, it's that's how you listen to it. You know, you turn it up loud, and it has a power, and it has a thing that, you know, that running it from Spotify, I don't think quite works in the same way. So it was fantastic, as you say, Brad. To all those, you know, the films that, you know, that you've seen, the Swedish TV thing and stuff. Did you like the one after? Was it? I can't remember. There's another TV show they're on where people were sitting and they're sort of, you know, steps going, and the kids had their fingers over their ears and stuff, and there was a little baby there going. That was just lovely. That was just brilliant. You know, the slightly bewildered audience didn't quite know what was going on. It's like, this is loud.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because for a long time I couldn't understand why a band was given it its all, and clearly everybody in the audience, Brad, wasn't interested in what the band was doing. But Jimmy Page said it, didn't he, Simon, quite clearly? He said, wherever we go, whether we playing in front of 50,000 people or 5 people or 3 people, we're going to play for each other. That was really interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, and that, if you want a lesson for any band, you know, that you know, even if you know, and they did talk about playing to not very many people, not, you know, and having, he said, you know, we're just going to huddle together, play for ourselves. We're going to go out, and you know, I hark on about this a lot, but it is, you know, really interesting to me that when you watch them, they're all in one shot, aren't they? You know, how many times have you watched all that film? They're all in one shot. You know, there's not somebody over there and somebody over there. You know, they're very close together. John is next to John Bonham, you know, and they're, you know, right on the drum riser, and
and it's and I think that's Jimmy Page is right there on the other side. They're the three instrumentalists are huddled together for warmth and stuff.
Hey, Hugh.
Well, Hugh, I hope you're all right, mate. Good to see you.
Yeah, we waited for you, Hugh. We gathered. Things were not going too well, so we went live. Next time, brother. Next time.
Michael Smith is going to see it. I hope we're not spoiling it for you, Michael. It's yes, and anybody else who hasn't seen it. I don't think Cosmic Vagabond Pixie's seen it either, so I hope we're not spoiling it for you. Spoiler alert.
No, we're not spoiling it. We're giving them the meat and bones to go there and see it, Simon.
Yeah, you got to see for yourself. Like we're all Zeppelin fans. We all know the backstory. It's not like you're walking into something you've never heard before, but you are hearing a lot of stuff and picking up a lot of stuff that we have never heard before. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of nuggets in there that nobody's ever spoken about before. With Robert Plant, for example, there was a lot of stuff that I picked up in this documentary that I probably didn't really understand about Robert Plant or know about him in that way. I think a lot of his life's been fairly private in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%. And the fact that he was talking about his family, and what about the comment, guys, that he made after the Albert Hall gig? He said, "Oh, I'm definitely not going to be a chartered accountant now."
That was funny, wasn't it? But there are lots of those things, those tiny details. Like I love the fact that John Bonham's wife, Pat, kept saying to him, "You don't want to be going around that plant. He's a bloody menace."
Yeah, keep away from their plant.
Keep away from
planting.
Troublemaker.
And I love how they Robert Plant goes, "I don't like to waste time, so we got married on the same day on the way to the gig or something."
Yeah, and got lost and broke down.
I love that. It's brilliant.
I know. It's really funny. Yeah. Keep away from that plant. He's nothing but trouble. Oh dear. That was funny. But you are right. It is in those little nuggets of things that that the character comes through, and and just filling in those little gaps in the story and things you may not have known, and things I didn't know.
Yeah.
Besides, the listening to it really loud is fantastic, and it gives you a different perspective. Let's see. But it's all about. Did you think? I thought that quite well. It's sort of. I felt there was an echo between the way the film is put together, especially those stuff, and Jimmy Page's book for some reason. Because Jimmy Page's book has got the guitars, but it's also got cuttings and it's got all sorts of. I felt like there was a bit of a connection between the two things. It wasn't too dissimilar the way they put the film together and put his Dosso book together. If anyone hasn't,
I agree.
If anyone in the chat doesn't know what I'm talking about, this book here, which is a fantastic book of minutiae, and it's got loads of stuff about the recording stuff, but also loads of stuff about posters and tickets and all those other things. Yeah,
I was saying to my partner last night that I think the silence that we've heard from Jimmy Page musically, like he hasn't released a lot of music over the last decade or so, maybe, is him basically chronologically getting Led Zeppelin's affairs in order, because he's such a flag bearer for Zeppelin. I think that's this movie. When was it meant to be released? A year or two ago, guys. Am I incorrect in saying that? And there was hold-ups and a lot of stuff.
Oh, it's been going on for 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
So, I mean, I know someone, I can't remember who it was in the comment, mentioned that maybe it's setting up for part 2, 3, or 4. Who knows? There could be. He could have organised this already with the first part becoming Led Zeppelin. Maybe there's the journey, and then there might be the other one, the fall of the empire sort of thing. I don't know, but
gonna happen.
I think maybe that's why he's been focusing on Led Zeppelin's flagship, making sure that while he's still able to do it, that he's controlling the legacy that's left behind. I mean, I love how John Paul Jones said, Led Zeppelin, who's going to remember that name, when he was talking about the band names.
Yeah.
So I couldn't think of a better name, so I just agreed, but he goes, but who's going to remember the name Led Zeppelin? I mean, look at us now. We're how many years down the track, and we're still in awe of Led Zeppelin, and nobody forgets. I think everybody knows who Led Zeppelin is. So
I'll tell you why I think Jimmy Page is such a master when it comes to documenting his musical career. I'll tell you why I think it is. So it's, if you're a Jimmy Page fan, you know that the guy's a magician. Okay. And part and parcel of what a magician has to do is you have to do a magical diary. You have to write things down. You have to document what you're doing on a daily basis so that you can go back and have a look and reflect. It's really, really important. So Jimmy Page's musical career is his work.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is this is just who he is as an individual. So he's not doing this, I don't think, Brad and Simon, because he's doing it for record companies or because the management's on his back or something like that. I firmly believe that he's doing this because of his magical perspective of life, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It does totally make sense. Yeah, I did acknowledge as well, and I mean, we've been talking a lot about his vision and his mastery as his sonic vision of the band and everything like that, but his mastery on the guitar was very evident as well when you watch the footage. And I mean, like I said before, we've watched a lot of that footage before. We've seen a lot of it before. The live performings I'm talking about. But you can't help but watch it after, it's been a while since I've seen some of that stuff with him playing the Telecaster, for example. And you're watching in awe of this guy, like playing guitar. And like Robert Plant said to John Bonham, you have to hear Jimmy Page play. He's amazing. Like he was an incredible guitar player. And obviously still is, but back in the day, back in this era of Zeppelin becoming, I don't think there was many players that were doing what he was doing. And I'm going to say and reiterate this because we've mentioned it many, many times before on Zosso shows, he was an innovator. And I think he was one of the pioneers, heavily influenced a lot of players, including a lot of the ones we talk about on this show, guys. You know what I mean? He was doing his own thing. He wasn't really trying to be like any other player at the time. He was just doing his own thing. He was.
No, that's right.
What's really interesting about his playing and what he's doing, and I agree with you, is if you go and have a look. So one of the first songs I learnt to play, a Led Zeppelin song, only 4 chords, was "Whole Lot of Love." It's not a hard song. You know, the solo is, but if you want to grab a guitar, Simon, all of us can jam along to Whole, or Communication Breakdown. How many chords in that? It's 3 or 4 chords. We can play it on bass all night long if you want. So Brad, you're right. Well, he was writing songs that weren't, overly complicated.
No.
And I think that was on purpose as well, because he wanted clearly people to go out there and play his stuff as well, So I agree with what you're saying. I'm just trying to find the dovetail of to finally put it in where you were going, but sounding completely unlike anyone else, but not super technical, Simon.
No, and but also the emphasis on I think, on improvisation, for sure, and he talks about that in the film. That emphasis on improvisation that is a key to it. And I can remember when we did one of the most extraordinary things I think is, as Hugh Caldwell says, he mastered many styles and the knowledge, and that comes from the background of all that session work and things, but also that willingness to throw yourself off the cliff, but also going on and knowing that you're going to do Dazed and Confused or whatever it is, and it's going to be 35 minutes long, and I'm constantly astonished by, and don't know, I'd love to ask him how you approach that. How do you approach? Do you going to do a song? The first 2 minutes are structure, verse, chorus, whatever, and the next 35 minutes are, well, off you go then, Jim. And how you structure that, how you put it together. What are you thinking about when you're playing? In the moment, and clearly later on things are worked out. He has sections and structures and things like the bozo. But nevertheless, within that, he's improvising and he's, doing, and of course, the other thing I'd say is he's the only guitar player in the group. So it's not, he hasn't, there's nobody else playing, not the guitar, there's a bass and drum, but there's nobody else doing it. So you're out there on your own. So you've got a big sonic space to fill, but you've got to fill it with ideas, and you've got to fill it with, and you've just got to, I think you've got to go for it in a way. And I think that's, we talk a lot here about, that's another constraint, isn't it? He could have got a rhythm guitar player, like they had in the Yardbirds, him and Jeff Beck, playing together briefly, and they had a rhythm guitarist in the Yardbirds. No, not in Led Zeppelin. It's just the four of them, or the three instrumentalists are all playing. And that, I think, is a constraint that you have to overcome, isn't it? But that ability to overcome it is extraordinary, I think.
I think the reason why he didn't have another guitarist is clearly he knew that he was going to be a riff-based guitar player. Communication breakdown. Let's just look at that for an example. So you got the E chord, you got the E, Brad, da, 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 and then you go to the D A. Da, da, da. Yep. It's pretty simple.
D,
so yeah. D. Yeah.
But notice the way he plays it is a lot different to the way a lot of guitarists think 100%. It's played. He's playing the A like an inversion back to the.
He doesn't play it the proper way.
No, and I love that about Page. And I will say this: I've forgotten which song it was, so forgive me, because it was a lot to take in watching it. But on the big screen, it was really great watching some of his techniques. And there was one where he's playing like a pentatonic, and he's playing the box with the extension, and he's going between his first, third, and fourth, and the stretch between the third and fourth. He's going diddle, 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 like between two frets. So in other words, he's stretching out. I'd have to show you on the guitar, which I'm not going to do because it might get flagged. But the way he was doing it, I was like, I've got to go back and practice these leaks. I've forgotten about them. And to see it on the screen was incredible.
That's that seventh. I think it's that seventh. Is it the seventh that in the chord that he's flicking, flicking? He loves doing that, doesn't he? He loves flicking that little finger or that other finger onto that seventh note. Just a genius. But getting back to your point, Simon, clearly he was just didn't need a rhythm guitarist, Brad, because he was going dun, 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 and then filling in those chords that you're talking about. And if you can do that.
Well, it's true. But although you could say, there are guitar parts, there's more, he overdubbed guitar parts onto the track. So in a sense, you could have had a second guitarist, couldn't you? He could have had a second guitarist, to play those bits, and lots of bands do. But no, chose not to. It's the four of them. That's the magic. And, and as I said, for me, that's one of his, is that ability just to go out and play, and playing completely different styles, do the folk thing, do the, Since I've Been Loving You is completely different to, Dazed and Confused or whatever, they're different, but he can pull it all off, brilliantly, in like few others, I would suggest,
Yeah.
who'd go into that.
Well, guys, I put on Led Zeppelin 1 today, like I said earlier, and I must admit, when How Many More Times came on, I got goosebumps again from watching that footage last night. I was like, wow, man, these guys, and to think how quickly they recorded the first album and they recorded the second one on the road. Wow, man, that's just incredible. And they did all this in 12 months. Like,
Yeah,
that's something phenomenal. Like, not a lot of artists can do that. Let's be honest.
well,
You know,
I think that then, Brad, then it was much more. You know, how bands worked. You know, a lot of bands released 2 albums in a year. You know, famously, Fairport Convention released 3 albums in 1 year, which is a bit wild and crazy. But you know, I think if you look back, a lot of bands did release more than 1 album in a year, kind of thing, and then toured in between and things. But I think that's that is down to several things. It's down to the creativity of those bands, which was just huge. You know, just writing all the time, constantly writing new stuff. You know, then and also the ability to go in and record it quickly. You know, get it down, know what you're doing, and I think Page is the master of I know how this is going to sound. I know what I'm going to do. We go in and and I can record it. And all that minutiae about where you place the mics to get the the sounds and all of that stuff. That he'd learned from doing the the sessions and things. So it all contributes to being able to do that. Now I think it's it's, as you will, Brad, you'll know better than us, but it's quite complicated now, isn't it? You're looking at, you've got infinite tracks, you've got infinite, you're producing things as much by looking at the tracks as you are by listening to them. Jimmy Page had no screens to look at and all that. You just you're listening to it and you're going. And I think by today's standards, you might say that it's quite sparse and quite there's a lot of gaps in it and things like that. But actually, that makes it breathable, to make it breathe. And
it's very primitive when you look at it now in comparison to how records are done now, and you're looking at, say, Pro Tools sessions where it's a wall of sound, but there was a lot of space in their recordings because they were limited to tracks and to what they were doing. And they did things very quickly. So as soon as something was done, they moved on. But, I think at the end of the day, even to the point where Jimmy Page is talking about how he wants to put acoustics and electrics together on Led Zeppelin 2 and really fuse that together and amalgamate and dovetail it all together. The way he was speaking about that, he had a vision. You said it, Simon. He's not looking at it on a screen. He's hearing it, even down to the engineering when he talks about how he had Eddie Kramer in the studio and there was more than 2 hands on the trying to get stuff. Like, it's that stuff, automation is done now in the studio without anyone touching anything. You know what I mean? It's avant-garde, he said. It was all about being unique, and we going back to the comment how they didn't want it to be a single, and he did everything he could to make it not a single.
Not a single for Atlantic, yes.
But I was in awe of how he spoke about, and I knew they recorded Led Zeppelin 2 on the road, but the way that they emphasized how full on their tour was, and you see all the dates popping up, you can't keep up with it. It's like bam, 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 bam. You're seeing all these dates pop up, the venues of this and that. You'd have to watch it in slow motion to absorb it all. It's that's how it must have been and felt for them. It was like a whirlwind. Boom, boom, boom. Go in the studio, record. Boom, 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 boom. Incredible. And it really, it really made me think when I was watching it and I walked out of there. Like, it showcased in that documentary how they became the biggest rock band in the world, but it flows beautifully from their childhood all the way through into their success. And I think it was just done absolutely perfect. The documentary could have been any better. The only thing is, like I said, I would love to hear more technical stuff, but I don't think that would be for the general punter. That might be, if it came out on Blu-ray or DVD, that you'd get a second disc maybe with that sort of stuff on it, we had interviews with Paige and maybe John Paul Jones and Robert Plant and stuff like that, talking about what they did in the studios and stuff like that. That would be great. But that's a pipe dream. But I'm just grateful that we got what we got, and to watch it last night and now talking about it with you guys, it feels like I finally got the chance to all this stuff after watching the show, to talk to someone who understands it, like you guys and our subscribers and whatnot. This is why we do our channel too, guys. We get so soaked up and absorbed in it, and the community we can discuss what's going on in our heads with the community. Because if I went on like this to my partner, she'd probably look at me like, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should be normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or should be like same sort of thing as Bonham's wife saying, "Oh, stop, that planty, stay away from that planty.
Keep away from him."
Should be like, keep away from Mrs. Zeppelin now, would you? Please.
Yeah.
You're obsessed.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, Brad. I think it's just one of those. It's a masterpiece of a production. It surpassed, Simon, anything that I thought it was going to be. The music we got was fantastic, and you guys are right. To hear it in the theater with that sound, and to see the warmth and the affection that these guys had, and to pick up on those little tidbits, that they got out for us, to share with us was extra special. But I think the point you made too, guys, about Robert Plant, sharing some stuff, because I wasn't sure how he was going to come across, because I read a couple of reviews where people were saying that he was reticent to be involved in this film, guys. But if you go and watch it, you can't help but think, my gosh, that guy would have been the first guy in the producer's office saying, "Let's make a film, Simon."
Yeah. I certainly didn't get that impression at all. I didn't get that impression that anybody. I think that Robert Plant has a complicated relationship with Led Zeppelin, doesn't he? As a with regards to his career and things. And I think that I think we all agree that it's fair enough. He never really wanted to go back and do it again, did he? As a it's just didn't really want to. Couldn't. His 19-year-old self wasn't. His 55, 60-year-old self, and and he still does bits and pieces of Led Zeppelin for sure in the style of the band that he's got now. But I think that he has bit of a relationship with it, and that's understandable, isn't it? It's such an intense 10-year period of his life, extraordinary ups, downs, and arounds as a career. That sometimes the old saying "never go back" is the correct one, isn't it? And,
well, let's think about what Robert Plant said when they were talking about songwriting, and he was talking about becoming a song and songwriting and becoming a song lyricist, as well as not just writing melodies. And he discusses his lyrics, and he said, the first few words in Ramble On is basically what his life's all about.
Yeah, what his life's about. Yeah.
It's time I was on my way. That those two lines he said pretty much described his life. And I think once John Bonham passed, it was like the leaves had fallen all around. It was time he was on his way. He didn't want to be a part of Zeppelin without obviously John Bonham. All of them didn't want to be either. But I know post, John Bonham's passing, there were times where probably Paige and Jonesy would consider have gotten together with Jason, and I think despite the one-off O2 performance, Celebration Day, which we have ranked the tracks on and whatnot, so guys, go back and check if you haven't already done so. I thought I'd slot that in.
Our highest watch show, bro. 14,000 people.
Segued. But and it's a great show we did too, guys. Andrew said it was our highest watch one, and there's a reason for that, because it was a great show. But I know that I've read somewhere that Robert Plant, after that gig, pulled himself away from all the hype and went and sort of was depressed in a pub or something, drinking afterwards, having a drink or two afterwards, like almost depressed about it, doing that O2. So it was an interesting perspective when Robert Plant said that. You could see, and Andrew, Robert Plant's a really deep person. He's a really deep character. You can see that in everything he says. And at that particular moment, is very transparent about what he was saying there when he said leaves are falling all around. It's time I was on my way. When he said that,
that's great.
I understood exactly what he meant. I think I understood that. Yeah.
And the fact that as Brian was saying earlier, that his kind of lifestyle up to that point. He's living out of a suitcase and feeling like you're restless and something.
Yeah. I think we've got Cyborg Simon now.
Cyborg Simon.
You're I don't know, Simon, if you know that your screens are not showing and you're a little bit sound like a cyborg in the background.
Cyborg.
Maybe log out and log back in. Maybe log out and log back in.
Good to see.
Carry on.
Good to see you, Hugh. Carry on. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you, Brad. I think there's some gems in there, and we recommend, obviously, if you're interested in, well, look, if you're a Led Zeppelin fan, you have to go and see it. But if you're interested in that music from that particular era, this is just a fantastic example of why these bands and why these artists were head and shoulders. And 40, 50, 60 years later, Brad was still talking about them. I just want to talk one point with you while the rock professor comes back in. And we know this, but it's an interesting point that Jimmy Page could read music and John Paul Jones could read music too. So it was interesting how, when they were session guys, they could just go in there, see the stuff that was on the screen in front of them or the music stand in front of them, Simon. And you had to get it right there and then because everybody was around you. And if you weren't good enough, Brad, if you made a mistake, you never came back.
That's a very valid point. However, I will say this: I don't know whether it was documented in the show or not, but I don't think Jimmy Page could read music that well. Like, he couldn't sight read. He looked at chord charts and he improvised a lot. He was a bit cheeky like that, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone can correct me.
No,
but from
I think that's right. I think he knew the basics, but he couldn't sight read, But I don't think they wanted that in the 60s. I don't think they wanted that. I think they wanted him because he could go in and he could improvise. He'd have an idea for a solo, and he could write, and as we talked about earlier, you're on a 2-hour session to record something. You want somebody who can knock something out, and I think he was really good at doing that, and probably really fast at picking things up.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Just my understanding, I could be wrong with that, guys. So don't quote that as being gospel, but I think that he could read chord charts and whatnot, but I don't know whether he could sight read. But I think it's a very valid point that you guys made, that they used to get him for that reason. So he would come in and lay something down that was a little bit cheeky and a little bit unusual compared to what would be the normal session player. You know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure.
Did all the guitar work with Donovan for Donovan's stuff on what is it? What was that famous Donovan song, Simon? Not Mellow Yellow.
Hurdy-gurdy man. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And John Paul Jones arranged it all.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And did you see the chart? Did you see all the charts that they, and that he was arranging all this at night, Brad and Simon, and then
JPJ could do charts and stuff. Yeah, he definitely could read music.
Yeah, he was very schooled with all that. He knew how to sight read. He knew how to arrange, read charts, write charts. He could do it all. He was very talented like that. Still is, obviously, but
he arranged all that, Brad. He arranged,
for
a
a
young
very young
20-year-old.
So I'm saying, for a young guy, he was very talented. And I did say this to my partner again. I know I keep saying that, but because I was trying to discuss it and get it all out, I was just probably sick of hearing me talk about the show and Led Zeppelin after watching it. But I was trying to get it all out so I'd probably remember it myself.
That's right. That's right, Cosmic. Sunshine Superman was the song that he played the lead on. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff to absorb when you're watching it. But, yeah, my point being was they were all such young guys.
Yeah.
This particular time in their lives, they were so young and so talented. It was almost like they were destined to be together. And obviously, the minute they started playing together and realized that how important it was that they would stay together, you know what I mean? Their chemistry. Simon, you mentioned it before at the start of the show about how how Paige goes, train kept rolling. He goes, no, but just show me.
Didn't know it.
Yeah, just show me. Fine. And I'll be right. In other words, it's just and the chemistry obviously was there from the moment they went. And John Paul Jones didn't even know the song. So,
well, clearly John Paul Jones is pitch perfect. Then clearly, if Jimmy Page was playing chords and clearly he could, that's an E, A, and a D, Brad, and a B.
Well, Jackie, my partner, said she was most surprised by John Paul Jones in the whole thing, how important he was. She didn't realize how important John Paul Jones was, because she's not like a deep diver like us into the music, and you really understand how important John Paul Jones was in Led Zeppelin from the very start to the very end.
100%.
Such a massive part of Zeppelin. Everyone seems to gravitate to Bonham or Page or Plant, but Jonesy was equally, he rounded out everything in Led Zeppelin. So any gaps or anything that wasn't there, Jonesy was there. He filled it. And
no, that's exactly right.
Yeah. I
think that, they always said, didn't they, Brad? They always go on about, oh, well, if we want another instrument, just Jonesy will be able to play it, mandolin or, recorder or, whatever it is. Oh, yeah, with Jonesy, any kind of keyboards, Jonesy could play that, And they, never got somebody from outside because, Jonesy could play them all.
Exactly. But I loved hearing how Jonesy talked about John Bonham. And that was, it's wonderful to hear, because the rhythm section was so important in Led Zeppelin, and he spoke about him very highly, discussing basically how they connected, and he worked really well with John, John Bonham and John Paul Jones. They merged. They became like a really tight rhythm section very quickly.
100%.
No,
bro.
definitely.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It was special film. We're coming up to an hour and 1:30, folks. We're gonna wrap up the show, so we're gonna be giving some of our final thoughts. But we do urge you, if you've come this far onto our show, let us know what you think of the film if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, we urge you to go and see it, because you won't be disappointed, guys, if you go and see it and go and buy a box of popcorn and a choc bomb and a Coke, and you'll be fine.
Choc bomb. Yeah. Some strange New Zealand thing, is it? A choc bomb. together with crisps and Marmite sandwiches.
Probably I shouldn't have said that word, because YouTube might think that it's one of those real BOMBs. But it's an ice cream. But Brad, I and Simon, I'm glad from our perspective here on the channel, that we've got together, and I was clearly keen to hang out with you guys too and hear what you guys had to think about the film, because it's a landmark, and I'm going to go back and watch it. I don't know about you guys. I'll probably cruise end of the week. I want to go and see it again.
I'm going to take my son along and watch it, because he's just as big a Led Zeppelin fan as we are. He watches the Led Zeppelin DVD, the orange one. He watches that religiously when he goes to bed. He puts it on and he watches the footage. His favorite footage of it is the Madison Square Garden stuff. But I'm going to watch that again as well. I'm going to watch the Albert Hall performance. That was mind-blowing to watch all that stuff on the big screen. But I'll definitely be going back to watch it, guys. Definitely. With my son this week at least. I think it's I think we'll probably take in a little bit more the second time, maybe, because it was a lot to take in, guys, you know, on the one run through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
John thought I was talking about a chock bong. Well, a chock bong is a bong that's chock full of that stuff that you put into a bong. Yeah, you're right. Well done.
Yeah.
Nice, John. Nice one.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, go and watch it, guys. Yeah. You know, it's a mandatory if you're a Zeppelin fan or a fan of that era of music. Even if you're not a massive Zeppelin fan, I think you should go and watch it, and you'll probably even walk away with even more respect for the band than you probably have at the moment, because it is targeted very much so towards the general punter, which I liked that. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I think that the way that it dovetailed into DVD, I think was really good. You know, it ended, and that's where DVD starts. So you, in a sense, you've certainly musically, you've got the chock bong Jovi. Oh, nice one, you. That's good. But you've got that continuation, you know, and I know people are going, oh, they only got the second album kind of thing. You go, yeah, but actually, that's the rest of the story, isn't it? You know, starting at the Albert Hall, then, as you said, going through to Madison Square Gardens, Earl's Court, you know, and Nebworth and all of those things, those landmark concerts that they did. You know, musically, you've got the rest of that journey on DVD, and this is kind of the background to it. So I think, you know, that I don't know if they thought about it consciously, but it seems to me like the two things fit together perfectly as a whole. And there's not necessarily, I don't know whether they would think about doing a sequel for being later on stuff. Might be interesting.
Yeah,
have to.
I'm hoping and praying that we see something pop up in the next year or so. Once these things, the dust has settled on becoming Led Zeppelin, hopefully we'll get something else. You know, one or two more. Jimmy, release one or two more things, please, Jimmy.
Well, Mr. Page is a perfectionist. Mr. Page is a documentarian. So I don't think he's going to leave it. There's more to the story, Simon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, there's always more to the story, but you know, it's even if you've got nothing else, at least you'd have the background to the four musicians, how they got together, and all of that, and then you've got the DVD bit, which is, you know, their musically the story of that rise and that success, you know, that they had through the 70s.
Yeah,
100%.
Definitely.
So we're going to grab our Les Pauls, the three of us, and we're going to hold them up. That's going to be the screenshot, folks, for this show. So just give us a second while we grab our instruments.
My jacket realized.
All right.
Oh, look.
Rock and roll.
See, look, Brad's got the covers off, no scratch guard. Look at that.
Keep it there. Keep it there, gentlemen. Change the angle now.
Back the other way. Yes. Heft. What's it? It's a slow motion gym session, and just like to point out that in mine is my Brad
Oh,
Cook pick. Playing my Les Paul with my Brad Cook pick.
Thank you, Simon. That's lovely. There's mine.
Yeah, see, well, hey. Nice.
I don't have one handy. It's not here.
Hey, Simon, he's already lost them.
No, I haven't. They're in the other room. I've been playing bass lately, guys. So picks haven't been a thing for me. But I must admit, though, when I came back from watching Led Zeppelin, I had to pull out my Les Paul and do communication. Yeah. Had to. But yeah, it just brought back memories, though, guys. Hanging out with you guys, and the people in the chat and the new people in the chat. Thank you for hanging out with us, because this is what I used to do when I was 14 years old with my mates at high school. We would get together. I remember talking about the first time I listened to Houses of Holy with 4 other guys for a whole lunchtime for a week. How that album, while everyone else was listening to A Flock of Seagulls and Midger and all that radio stuff. Yeah, and we were talking about Led Zeppelin. So it's one of the great things about hanging out with you guys. We can relive those memories again and do it in another way, Brad and Simon.
Yes, Chock.
Yeah, absolutely.
You saw that.
I
love it.
No, I agree. I agree, Andrew. It's great. My nickname at high school was Hippie because I listened to Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, and the Doors, and everyone else was listening to Motley Crue and Poison and all these other shit or other bands. And I didn't say that. I didn't mean that because I still listen to them. But yeah. But and
I was always stuck in time. I was always 15, 20 years too late.
Yeah. I got busted listening to Child in Time by Deep Purple on my headphones, and I never lived it down. Everyone was like, this guy's like something else. Yeah, he's a hippie, this boy. And never lived it down. And then obviously
not in my world, Brad. Not in my world. That's class.
That's cool.
Listening to Child in Time, mate. That's class. Nothing wrong with that. Can I just one thing before we go? Arvin said earlier that he thought he'd heard Jimmy Page did the solo on "You Really Got Me." He didn't, Arvin. It's definitely Dave Davis who played that for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think he played some rhythm guitar on some Kink stuff, and I think he did some rhythm guitar on some Who stuff. But mainly, it's that's Dave Davis for sure playing. You Really Got Me. Debunked by none other than Page himself.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be in touch with John ZD351 to see what John's doing next week, to see if he wants to come on and hang out with us.
Yay!
While the Backdoor Man is going to be coming back from a gig. John, we'll be talking to you if that's okay. Otherwise, the Rock Professor and I will be back here. We'll have something to talk about. Brad, you said you had an album for us to rank in a fortnight. You want to share that with us now so that we can prepare and do our notes, or do you want to keep that one up your sleeve for a little bit?
No, I'm going to give you guys a heads up so you can get a head start. Why not? Because I know I'm going to probably need a head start on it because it's a pretty big record. Black Country Communion 2.
Oh!
Black Country Communion 2. I mean, you want to talk about Zeppelin? Well, it's a brother or sister band off Led Zeppelin, so why not? I thought
Black Country 2.
we did the first record, so let's do the second one. Let's do it.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Marvellous. And John says that he should be free next week. So,
yeah, awesome, John. Thank you, John.
Thank you,
It's
John.
always-
So, John, do you want to do an album, or do you just want to come on here and hang out and talk, shoot the breeze with Simon and I? Let us know what you want to do, bro. You're the boss.
Yeah. It's always great to have John on the show. It's big shoes to fill when I come back. Yeah.
He should be free. Yeah. Look how we co-opt them. But yeah, if you hit that notification button,
cyberbullying. Yes.
hit that notification button, and we'll be back here anyway. This is for the new people that were with us for this show. If you want to come back and join us for shows in the future, we're always on this time every week. So you can set your clock to that. We appreciate that. And if you want, we invite people to come on as guests. So if there's an album that you want to rank and you think that you might want to come on and talk about it, you don't even have to rank the album. You might want to just get together and talk with us about an album like what we've done today. So we can do that too, Simon, can't we? We're happy to make anything
happy
work.
to join you. Yeah. And we're keen if somebody wants to come on, and if you watch some of the other shows, you get an idea about how we rank the tracks and all that kind of stuff. But you want to come and do that, or if you want to come on and have a chat, it will be a pleasure. As I always say, everyone's got a story, musical story, and it's interesting to hear.
I agree.
Yeah, let us know, John. Let us know what you're thinking. Otherwise, we can just get together. We'll pick a subject and we can just get together and spend an hour and a half. You know how time flies when you're on these shows live, Brad. Time flies.
Oh, well, we just waffled for an hour and a half or more about a movie we watched. So, pretty easy. Simon, did you want to do a bit of a shout out to everyone, or I thought
I'll do a shout out, and I'll just leave you with this final thought. I don't know why it occurred to me. Your time is going to come. Is also Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh,
you listen to that. If you listen. When I realize I've been sitting there, I go, gee, that's just like Sweet Home Alabama. It's really funny. Made me laugh, and I just once heard, never unheard. So anyway, that's my tip: is go listen to that. You sing along to it.
I'm gonna have to go and have a listen.
Yeah, listen to that. So Hugh, John, great to see you guys. Of course, Ellen as well. Sending our love to you, Ellen, and I hope things are on the up. It's fantastic. So it was lovely of you to join. Cosmic Vagabond Pixie, thank you so much for joining. Hope we were fun and entertaining. Lots of great comments from you. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
John, Hugh, who else do we have? Arvin, of course. Arvin, thanks, mate, for joining. Good to see you.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling back up. Just takes time. Hugh, John, Helene O'Hara as well. Nice to see you, Helene. Michael Smith, of course. Great to see you, Michael. We hope you're well, and it's lovely to see you. Thanks for joining. Fantastic. It's great to see you. Who else did we have going further up? Michael. A couple of other people near the top. Totigerus. Good to see you, and thank you for joining. We hope you've subscribed. Cheeky manner. And Sir Michael Carmichael as well. Thank you, Sir Michael. Great to see you, and hope you enjoyed the show. And Nelson as well. Nelson Rodriguez. He came in near the top. So good to see you guys. And right at the very top, CKM Music as well. So thanks all for joining. I hope I got everybody. It was great to see you, and thanks for your great comments. And we'll be back next week for more of this madness.
Yeah,
Simon,
subscribe.
so we got Quentin James here as well. Quentin's just jumped into the chat.
Oh, is he? Oh, there he is. Look. Quentin.
Hey, Quentin.
If
you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our channel. We don't like to force anyone to do it, but if you like what we're doing, please do so. And obviously, if you've come this far watching us waffle about a movie about Led Zeppelin becoming, well, subscribe, because we'll do way more of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, way more of it. Yes. Dear.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, bye.
You guys are awesome.
Take care, everyone.
We're out of here.
Have a great week. Yeah.
That's it.
Have a great week, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next week for more of this nonsense.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I haven't ended the show, guys. I just want to do a shout out to Jonas because he's just jumped in. He made a comment
Well
while
done.
we were while we were doing the
Hey,
end
Jonas.
of the video, and Hobo Roadie's jumped in. So
And
we have
Hobo
to be
Roadie.
polite.
Nice to see you. Hey, guys.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. We'll stop
Shoot
everything
full
to
finger.
give him a shout out. Yes.
Let's really go this time. Anyone else jumps in? Well, bye-bye.
Now it's time for Brad's Tech and Tone Tips.
Hey.
We're still live.
Lovely.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take it away, boss.